If I should count the number of time, I mean, if I should count the number of times people have asked me, should I go for hourly rates or should I go for fixed rates? Probably I should have gathered enough money to buy my dream home. Don't you think? Anyways, today that we are here, let's talk about the hourly rate and the fixed rate. I've not come here to debate, though. It is not something to debate about because each and every one of it has advantage and disadvantage, and that is what we're going to discuss here. But before we do that, we're going to define or understand what the hourly rates and the fixed rates on Upwork is all about. So, hi, my name is Adeze, your favorite low-code, no-code developer who talks about Upwork, freelancing, remote work, and what I do as a low-code, no-code developer. I've had so many freelancers reach out to me and ask me what they would pick, especially those who are either just starting off newly or are about to start off newly on Upwork. And to be fair, I give them the same counsel, I give them the same opinion. But so that I don't turn to a broken record, saying one thing over and over again, I'll just do this video and have it on YouTube so that the next time another person asks me that question, I will just lead you to this video. So let's get into what each and every one of it mean. As you already know, Upwork has two main ways of paying, especially when you're hired. Now, I'm not talking about projects, when people purchase your projects or when people consult you. I'm not talking about that. I've talked about that on this channel. So if you've not watched that, somewhere around this video, I'll attach it up, or you can just scroll through the channel under this playlist of Upwork. You'll find those videos. Okay. Today we're talking about hourly rates and fixed rates when Upwork, when you have a client hire you on Upwork. So what is hourly rate? Hourly rate is when a client says, I want to hire you for this specific amount per hour. It could either be based on the rates you put on your profile or based on the rates the clients can afford. But one thing I know is that you have the right to agree whether it's a rate you're okay with. So what that looks like is that when you're hired for an hourly rate, let's say $10 per hour, when you start working, you have to use a time tracker. Now, you can't do this. So this is not the kind of job where you say you will do it on your phone, because the time tracker is a desktop app that you have to download on your laptop, right? It's an Upwork time tracker that you have. So, and that Upwork time tracker, if you're working multiple hourly jobs, you have to be very sure that it's the particular client that you're working for that you click on their profile on the Upwork time tracker, because you might have multiple hourly rates, so that you don't end up mistakenly going to track time for another client, for like using another client's profile to track for the client you intended to do. You don't want to get into that mess, right? So that is how it basically looks like. So as you're working on your laptop, it's taking screenshots. It takes screenshots and analyzes that screenshot. When you look at it at the back end, even from your own Upwork profile as a freelancer, it tells you how many strokes on your mouse, the number of keys you press and all that, so that it gives the person an idea that you were not just taking a screenshot with an empty, like you were not doing anything, maybe on a blank screen. So it takes cognizance of the things you do on your keyboard and what is presently showing on your screen. So you have to be sure that you're working on a client's job when they're taking that screenshot, because you don't want to be doing something else or thinking you can multitask and it's taking screenshots and it just go and pay you when you are doing something else instead of the client's job. So that is that about Upwork Time Tracker. So it's basically an Upwork extension that can help you do that. You have to download the Upwork, no, not Upwork extension, Upwork application. So you have to download the application. Just one small rectangular something at the corner of your laptop. So yeah, it takes pictures and makes sound if you have sounds enabled on your laptop. That takam sound, I used to like that sound very well. It just makes me feel good. So yeah, that is that about hourly rates. Then for fixed rates, that one is more about you and the clients agreeing on a specific. I mean, everything is about mutual understanding. If it's something you're not okay with, you say you're not okay with. If it's something you're okay with, you go ahead for it. So in this one, the clients would have a specific amount fixed and say that this is the amount they want to pay for this whole project. So if it takes you 10 hours to do it, if it takes you 3 hours to do it, if it takes you 100 hours to do it, this is the specific amount they are going to pay. So Upwork handles that one in terms of milestone. So you can break it into milestones in the sense that the clients can, if the project has 6 steps or 6 things you have to do, they can break that into, maybe when you do the first 2 steps, they will pay you part of the money. If you do the next 2 steps, they'll pay you part of the money. Or you can choose, or the client agrees that it is when you've done the whole project that they will pay you all your money. Whichever one, just be sure that it is something that you mutually agree with your client. Okay, now at this point, if you're new to Upwork or if you've not gotten your first job, you're probably thinking, which should I go for? Which will pay me better? Relax. Each of these ones, either the hourly rate or the fixed rate, come with their pros and their cons, which I'll generously share with you. Then you now decide which one you want to go for. So let's go into the pros in hourly rates. Let me start with the good news first before the bad news, right? The first pro in hourly rates is clients that love long-term goals and long-term collaboration or long-term work tend to use that because every week your time is tracked and every week you get to be paid. You as a freelancer, you're sure that okay, this is the amount I have worked this week. You can help you gauge your productivity. Okay, I worked 10 hours, so I'm getting, for instance, if you're being paid $10 per hour, you say you worked 10 hours and this is the amount you're going to be paid for the 10 hours you have worked. And Upwork also protects you because when you use the hourly rate, especially when you impute the memo, I've emphasized this memo thing when I talked about a video where I lost money on Upwork. The video is somewhere on the channel. If you've not watched it, you are sleeping on a long thing. Relax, watch the videos on my channel. They are very rich with so much useful information. So be sure to put in the memo of what you've done. When you do that, it's easier for Upwork to protect you when it comes to payment and maybe there's a dispute or something. So be sure to put in the memo describing what you're working on at that moment, and don't forget to turn on your time tracker, right? So it's easier for Upwork to protect you. It's also easier for you to use that on a long-term project with clients because it's continuous. Me, for instance, at this moment, I'm working for a company I've been working with since last year, December, and as at when I'm making this video, this is April. Yeah. So I've been using the hourly rate because it's a long-term contract. So I just track what I do for the week, and at the end of the week, I get my money. I mean, Upwork automatically deducts it from their card. That's your client's card for you to be paid. So it's not an issue in terms of that. Another pro is that if the scope of a project expands, you still get paid more. So if the client keeps adding to the scope of what they gave you, you just keep tracking your time to do your work and your money keeps increasing. So if you do 5 hours this week, you could do 10 hours this week, you could do 15 hours next week, depending on what additional things the client adds to your project, right? Yeah. And because most times it is clients who want long-term support that use the hourly rates, you as a freelancer is an opportunity for you to feel or think that you have a stable income, especially if you use up all the hours every week you're assigned to. Sometimes you could use less depending on the work you're doing, right? So don't say because it's an hourly rate you have to use up all the hours they give you. There are some tasks they might give you for that week that might not be up to that. Me, for instance, I'm assigned 10 hours per week. There are times I do 5 hours in a week. There are times I do 3 hours in a week, depending on the task. Then there are times I even go over that 10 hours. But one thing you should know that is if you are approaching towards the number of hour limit they've given you for the week, communicate with your clients. Don't go overboard and expect them to pay you when you've not told them. So what I do is that when I'm approaching, maybe I'm at the ninth hour out of the 10 hours, I drop a Slack message to my clients and tell them that with a screenshot of it, telling them that I've almost used up my time. And these are the things that ate up the extra time. I'm always very detailed in my communication. These are the extra things I did that ate up my time. Should I go ahead and use up the time and log in the remaining time manually? I'll always wait for a response. If they say yes, I go ahead and do that. If they say no and are probing more, I halt and make sure that we're on the same terms, because one, some clients can be very, very, because it's a remote work, you wouldn't even blame them. Some clients can be very, very drawn aback and they will abruptly end the contract. I mean, I've had somebody complain like that on LinkedIn that had such a situation and the client did not even communicate with her. He just abruptly ended the contract. So when he ended the contract and she wanted to know why or what she did, the client was not explaining and she now gave her an explanation. So communication is a big deal. So be sure that you and the client are on the same page and the client understands that you've used up your time and you want to enter manually. And when you use up the time, there are two things that could happen. The client can either increase the limits that they assign to you for subsequent time, or when you enter manually, the clients can pay you off for that manual. So for that manual, they can only pay you off what you've done as a bonus, because it's not within what Upwork is protecting. So they'll have to pay you that extra time you've logged in as a bonus. So it will look like they're paying you a bonus, but it's mostly the overtime you have worked. So sometimes that some people get bonus, it's actually not really a bonus. Sometimes it's just that the extra time they've worked, the clients is paying them as a bonus. But there are clients that genuinely give people bonus, right? Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, because you might be like, okay, if I enter it manually, does it add to the money? No. And if you enter it manually and the client has not paid you that money as a bonus, it will not be released with your other hourly money that you've entered. So you need to understand that, right? So that you are able to communicate and you're not thinking your client is not wanting to pay you or your client wants to cheat you. It's okay. It's good that you have to understand that so that you both are on the same page. Okay? Now, let's go to the cons of using an hourly rate. With that hourly rate, you cannot work multiple jobs at the same time that are hourly tracked. Let me explain. If you're working for A and you're working for B, and both are clients on Upwork, and they are both hourly rates. Now, you cannot work for A and track and work for B at the same time and track. Even if you even want to enter the time manually, if you work for A 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. and you want to put in the same 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. for B, it will not work. Even if they are two different clients, it will not, Upwork will not allow you, because they just feel like it's impossible to be able to work on two projects at the same time. So if you have that kind of issue, you will not be able to track two clients within the same time. What I'm trying to say is that probably it's more like it has a setting of a full-time job where one is 9 to 5 and that one is 9 to 5, and you're supposed to track 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. here. You can't track 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. here. You have to track another time. And when the time doesn't correspond with this, it becomes a problem with one of the clients whose calculation is not calculating well from their end. So this is the disadvantage with hourly rates. So you have to be sure that if you're picking an hourly rate, it's not a full-time offer that wants you to be available all through round the clock. They just want you to track the number of hours of time that you've worked. You have to be sure and very sure about that. Secondly, you cannot outsource. Okay, let me not say you cannot outsource. Some people have found their way around outsourcing. It's not me that will come and teach you people that one. It's not me. I will not come and teach you people that one, please. But what I'm trying to say is that if it was a fixed project, right, people could easily outsource and maybe split the money or even pay off whoever they outsource to the full amount, however they want to share the money. But for something that has to be tracked, whoever you're outsourcing to will find it difficult to be able to do that if you have to track your time. Like I said, people have found their way around it, but it's not me that will teach people back. Okay? So nobody should ask me about this in the comment section or anyway. I'm not going to talk about it. I don't do it, so I'm not going to talk about it. Okay? So you need to understand that you can hardly outsource with hourly rates. It's very, very tedious to outsource. So you have to be sure you are the one having to do that work. You are the one having to figure it out and track your time. Okay. So there's no result, there's no reward for efficiency. If you do the work faster, it's based on how you track your time. If you do your work slower, it's based on how you track your time. But best believe that if you're not bringing profit, or if you're having your clients spend more, they might lose you. So some could give you bonus if you do the work efficiently. That's at the client's discretion. It's not for you to go and be asking your clients for bonus. So don't do that. It's not the right thing to do. And Upwork will flag you if your client reports you that you're seeking for bonus. What I'm trying to say is that if they gave you 10 hours to do that work because they felt 10 hours is what will take to do that job, but you have maneuvered the way of doing things very, very fast, and shortcuts and all that, and you end up doing the work for 4 hours, you will be paid for 4 hours instead of 10 hours. So you see the disadvantage of that. If it were to be a fixed rate now, if the client assumed $800 could do the job, but you know that because they feel like the job is very, very, but you feel like this job is not as hard as this client thinks, and you know that ordinarily it's $100 that you can use to do it. If it's a fixed job, you'll do it anyways and get your $800. Are you getting the drift now? So that is one cons of hourly rates, right? Now, some clients can micromanage you in terms of hourly rates because they want proof of work, they want that you are doing the work and all that. And it's usually quite tricky for people who work other jobs, maybe like full-time on-site jobs and all that, and you need your attention on that full-time job, and the client needs you to track your time at a specific time, and probably that specific time is clashing with the time you're either going to your business, you're going to your full-time job and all that. So that becomes a very big struggle, and you have to be running around to figure it out. So clients tend to micromanage, but as against fixed rates, you could do it anytime and just give the clients a time frame that in 3 days I'll have it ready. And maybe when you get back to work, you use your free time or you use your break at work to figure out a way to do the task. So that's one of the constraints again of hourly rates. So well, let's get into fixed rates.